Hello again, hockey fans. Are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Brave the Wild is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps and also on the Hockey Podcast Network, also known as THPN. That's right, THPN. I want to thank Dylan and Kyle so much for having me on board that wonderful network and website coming out of Vancouver, British Columbia. So, yes, it is great to be back on board here today to talk about the Minnesota Wild, the Stanley Cup Finals, and unfortunately some sad news and, disappointing news on the other side, on the Wild front. Kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it is what it is. You can kind of guess what that might be. So kind of in that order, maybe up and then some fan interaction. I'm thinking a 2-segment shot, something like that. So we'll see how this goes. It might even be 1 segment, as long as I get the ad in correctly and all of that good stuff. So let's get the heck moving here. Opening things up with some sad news, unfortunately. Claude Lemieux passed away this past week at age 60. He would have turned 61 on July 16th. He was born in 1965 out of Buckingham. I'm mixed up here, but in Buckingham, Quebec is what I'm trying to say. Died on May 28th at age 60. Definitely a physical, tough player. Won a couple of Stanley Cups, won 3 actually. Yep, he won 4. He won 4 Stanley Cups. busy guy, winning championships. Won that 1986 championship with the Montreal Canadiens. He's kind of from that area basically, Quebec. Bigger guy, 6'1", 226. Definitely could throw his body around and throw other people's bodies around as well. He even won a championship in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, also known as the Q, where he had 124 points and 152 penalty minutes. What kind of a combination is that? And then the postseason, 14 games, 40 points. 40 points in 14 games, and they won the title there in the Q way back in 85. Claude Lemieux was the was the 26th overall pick in the 1983 draft, which was the second round at the time because there were less teams. That was by the Montreal Canadiens. Pardon me. But yes, the basically came from Q glory to Montreal Canadiens glory. What would that be? Their 22nd Stanley Cup at the time. Did not win the Stanley Cup in 93 with them because he was on the New Jersey Devils, knocking people's bodies around and having 81 points that year for the 92-93 Devils. Unfortunately, a sad season here because it was the last year the North Stars would skate in Met Center. Mr. Claude Lemieux also won the Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils in 94 and 95. That great season, great season for the Devils anyway. Great playoff run. Jacques Lemaire won the Stanley Cup, and a lot of the Minnesota Wild's early identity in the early days of the franchise came from that team. Doug Risebrough was a part of that team in the front office. Also, again, going back to the Montreal Canadiens with Lemaire and Risebrough and others like Mario Tremblay and such. Willie Mitchell came from there. Jim Dowd came from there. Mr. Brad Bombardier came from that team. So very interesting. And of course, a former North Star who we all loved for so long. Unfortunately, after a great run for a career, injuries derailed him to be becoming more of a third line type of a center rather than a top line kind of guy. That would be Neil Broughton, finally getting a Stanley Cup after being heartbroken a couple times with the North Stars along the way. Won the Stanley Cup with that Devils team with Claude Lemieux. So pretty cool. Claude Lemieux was often in the triple digits in the penalty minute department. But he also would win the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche years later. 71 points that year. They're too hell of a player there. His 94-95 season, that was a shortened season if I remember correctly. So there was that as well. So there was a bit of that kind of frustrating stuff going on. Shortened season, the Devils would win their first Stanley Cup then. The Avalanche, though, Mr. Claude Lemieux won the Stanley Cup with the Avalanche. Many years later a few years later, wasn't that long, about 5 years later, would return to the New Jersey Devils and win another Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils. Pretty wild. And then would finish his career with the Phoenix Coyotes and the Dallas Stars, and then even played 18 games with the Sharks and he played 18 games with the Sharks in 08, 09. Pretty crazy. So kind of like a weird late comeback. Had an assist in one of his 18 games. Otherwise, his last regular game came with the Dallas Stars in the 02-03 season. Only 6 points in 32 games. Productivity had dropped off, unfortunately for him. not the most popular guy on the ice necessarily. Off the ice, pretty well liked, actually. Pretty well liked. Because you often hear about that, where a guy's kind of a bully and a pain in the ass on the ice, and he's disliked on the ice. But off the ice, like, oh, yeah, he's a good guy, you know? I mean, kind of like a guy like Boogie. You know, Bougard was a big, big bully. You know, he beat the crap out of people. That's what he did. And he had fun doing it. And off the ice, it's like he's like the salt of the earth, and everybody loved him to death. And then, unfortunately, um, he he passed away because of it was like a combination of like painkillers and alcohol, I believe, and it's just like it was like his body just shut down on him. So that was not suicide. It was just an accident. It was a mistake, kind of like an OD without really intending to be one. That kind of thing, like absolutely not trying to be an OD, and it wasn't necessarily drugs. It was painkillers, which yes, they're drugs, but they're not like you know. Yeah, it's not like Michael Jackson and Prince type of thing that took place. I guess you could say it's semi-related. In Claude Lemieux's case, though, it was suicide, which is really sad and horrifying, and you just hate to hear about this kind of thing. You know, so many of us probably have know somebody that committed suicide, knew somebody that committed suicide at one point, and unfortunately, a coworker about 11 months ago did that. As well, committed suicide, and they just all of a sudden they weren't coming to work anymore, and it's like, what's going on? Yeah, that kind of thing. And Claude Lemieux, I mean, obviously, family was like checking in on him, and it's like, what's going on? And it turned out he had committed suicide. So, you just never know. You just never know. People go through depression. People go through sadness. People hear voices, so to speak, or maybe literally. I don't know. And I'm not trying to be funny about it. I'm really not, because it's not funny at all. It's a horrifying thing. Actually, I can't say this is my type of specialty. I don't think anybody's necessarily, good at this kind of thing. That was a nervous chuckle, unless they're literally a professional in the field. So obviously a very sad, sad day for the NHL fans that grew up watching Claude Lemieux, or were already adults watching him for many years, maybe a little older, which is totally cool. You got to see a great era of hockey, let me tell you. If you were blessed to see Claude Lemieux play. One minor note, you could say, kind of like before I continue. Yes, like I was saying, he was disliked on the ice a bit. I remember vividly, because how some of us we have a good memory. We just remember stuff that happened sometimes. Way back in the early years of the Minnesota Wild, there was a guy by the name of Darby Hendrickson, right? You'll probably remember Darby Hendrickson if you've been around since the beginning. Like a young adult, like I was around that time. He was kind of like, obviously, like after the whistle, he was kind of bumping into Claude Lemieux, and I saw him. You could read his lips plain as day, saying "F you," the whole word, of course. So it's like, ooh, there's a little bit of intensity there. Claude Lemieux was always trying to get into people's heads, and again, that's why he did get a lot of penalty minutes and such, because there'd be fights and just general penalties and knocking people around. So a bit of that. It's just kind of a little bit of personality on there, but who knows what kind of things might have been going on in his head, especially after his career. So again, Claude Lemieux commits suicide at age 60. We will give Claude Lemieux a moment of silence. God bless you, Claude Lemieux, and your family. Suicide is no joke. It really isn't, and I figure I better mention this in case you ever have thoughts like most of us might have. There might be like a little hint of a thought, like you're having an extremely stressful day at work, hand raised, praise the Lord, that's going to stop happening, but extremely stressful day at work. And you have the thought, but then like 30 seconds or less gone, and most of us, you could say, are that way, where it'll just disappear. I don't thank you, Lord, for that. But others where it might be lingering and lingering and lingering and lingering and lingering. I recommend you call the Lifeline. It's 988 Lifeline. 988 Lifeline, or text 988 Lifeline right away if you have any type of like legitimate suicidal thoughts. Call it 988 Lifeline, or call or text. Seriously, though, it's not a joke, and people don't want to lose you. Let me tell you, people do not want to lose you. They don't. No matter what you think, people don't want to lose you. Dead serious. So Judd Brackett is unfortunately leaving to Toronto. So Judd Brackett, I don't know, again trying to transition. I don't know if that was a little bit of a too harsh of a transition there. I apologize, but it's like, it is what it is. We have to transition, unfortunately. But yes, Judd Brackett. This is disappointing for Minnesota Wild fans who really appreciate what Judd Brackett can do. A draft guru, you could say, a draft wonk. Maybe that's what they say on Dan Barrero, where it's like, you spell like in the know, like you know things, KNOW. They spell it backwards, a wonk. A NHL draft wonk. Prospect genius, you could say. Judd Brackett is leaving to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some people believe this could possibly lead to a closer connection to possibly bringing Austin Matthews to the Minnesota Wild. Who knows? And we talked about Austin Matthews extensively on last episode. I'll try not to babble too much about him this time, but obviously would be a very exciting addition, as would Connor McDavid. Of course, that's probably the most unlikely possibility in the world. Like, of course, yes. It's like, yes, I have tropical land in Antarctica. There's oceanfront property in Arizona that I'd like to sell you as well. And I would like to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, if that's possible. Oh, and by the way, remember the old commercial about what was it about financial risk? And this one guy was like, they were joking about, yeah, some people don't have risk, but for those of you that do, he was talking about like, I'm going to go buy an island. And it's like, which one? One of the Bahamas, you see. Yep. I'm going to buy one of the Bahamas too. That's about what this would be like, buying one of the Bahamas. Yeah. Could you imagine buying one of the Bahamas? Like you're just going out to buy something today. Got to make a purchase. It's a pretty significant one. It's one of the Bahamas. Well, getting Connor McDavid to Minnesota would be like getting one of the Bahamas. If I haven't reiterated that enough already and bored you to death. Judd Brackett, though, been with the Wild since around the COVID time. Slightly before, I do believe, came in from the Vancouver Canucks. Supposedly, they were interested in him as well, but did not ask for permission. Toronto did. And Judd Brackett's going to Toronto to become the assistant general manager. Could he have been the assistant general manager with the Minnesota Wild? Well, maybe, but I suppose those jobs were filled at the time, and he was like, it's time to go. All of us kind of have we want to move up, that type of thing. Even if the next level might be a frustrating position to be in, you just pray to God that the frustration either goes away or you're able to move to something else not too long after that. Read between the lines, folks. That's all you got to do there. Read between the lines in that one. Judd Brackett, though, coming to the Minnesota Wild years ago, his era with Minnesota, fairly successful. I mean, we haven't seen too many results yet from his time with the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, the Matt Boldy draft, that was still Mr. Paul Fenton. Pretty good draft pick. That was his best draft pick by far. Like 100 miles, his best draft pick. He's a 40-goal scorer now in the National Hockey League. The rest of the guys, kind of like Nikita Nesterenko. What has he got? 61 games in the NHL. He's kind of been in and out, like a bid player. Like a 13th forward kind of guy with the Ducks and such. 17 points in 61 games, if I didn't mention that already. Beckman had a couple minutes. Adam Beckman, a spectacular player in the juniors. Kind of so-so in the AHL and played 23 games in the NHL. So far with 3 assists, where Boldy's been just ridiculous. Not sure what they're repairing around here. Hearing a lot of hammering. You know what? I'll take that over the girl stomping around upstairs. So hopefully that's not going to happen anytime soon. Stop the hammering! Okay, sorry. Just kidding. I hope they didn't hear that. It's a funny bit. Well, they didn't stop, so they didn't hear it. Or if they did, they're like, bleep you. We're going to keep hammering because we're here to work, dang it. Yeah, like somebody telling me to turn the leaf blower off when I was working on a lawn. It's really? I'm supposed to stop working because you said so? Who are you? Like, seriously, who's this clown? So, same thoughts right there, I'm sure. If anybody told them to stop hammering. Pardon me. I am going off in so many rabbit holes right now, but, well, the Wild aren't playing, damn it. But, yes, the 2-year stint of Mr. Whatever his name is, Paul Fenton, not so great. Jack McBain is actually the second most productive player, and he's at best a bottom 6 guy. What is he, like a 30-some point a season guy throughout his career? Big dude, but I don't know. Yeah, 30 points? No, more like 20 points. Like 25 points a year, basically. It's okay. I mean, I'd take him on the fourth line, third line maybe here and there. I don't know, whatever, right? I mean, it's not blowing anyone's socks off. That would be the 2 years of Paul Fenton. Well, 2 drafts. It was one actual year, but 2 drafts for Paul Fenton. Congratulations to Zach Werenski, by the way, winning the Norris Trophy. Congratulations. Quinn Hughes wasn't even a finalist. Isn't that weird? You'd think he'd be in the top 3, wasn't he? But it was a Cale Makar. I don't know. I mean, Cale Makar obviously deserves to be there. You'd think it'd be Quinn Hughes, but whatever. You'd think he'd be up there with Werenski. Werenski, definitely, man. I mean, for years it's like he's good, but he wasn't great, and now he is great. I remember that, like in fantasy hockey, it was like frustrating. Like, come on, this year he had 81 freaking points. Sick. So I'm not disappointed that he won it. No, I just wish Hughes was in the conversation. To the Judd Brackett draft history, 2020. Damon Hunt has been in. He made the team for the most part. He's kind of been in and out of the minors a bit, but 45 games in the NHL so far with 7 assists. And I like Damon Hunt. He looks like a nice pick, and still has a chance to be something in this league. I think he's at least a third pair. Ryan O'Rourke was a pretty big bust, to be fair. I mean, what was he like in the minus 30s and minus upper 20s for a while? Pavel Novak, I don't know. Unfortunately, that kind of went south, but he looked awfully promising. Marco Rossi was the one. I still remember when they were watching the replay of that draft. Judd Brackett was telling Mr. GM Bill Guerin, before he was president of hockey operations, but general manager Bill Guerin, like, Rossi's lethal. I think they're calling him Rossi, though, but yeah, Rossi's lethal. I keep wanting to say it correctly because they told us it's Marco Rossi, but okay. So Marco Rossi is lethal, and then and Bill Guerin was basically like, yeah, we're gonna stand pat here because he's probably gonna fall to us. You know, we're not gonna give up the farm here to move up a spot or 2. And Rossi did fall to the Minnesota Wild. He looked lethal in the juniors. But it definitely took a while for him to get going, and myocarditis definitely did not help either. But, you know, even when he came back, it's like, you know, when he came back, yeah, it took him a while to kind of get going. But that whole myocarditis is a long time ago now. Rossi obviously had some success in his career, but hasn't really reached the potential that some of us thought he could get to. That's where people like Jesse Pierce were saying, I believe she was saying, yeah, don't be afraid to trade him, basically. Like, he's probably reaching his ceiling. And she's probably right. So God rest her soul. Merit Kuznetsov, I think the Wild gave up on him too quickly. 2nd round pick. Again, that was the Judd Brackett era, of course. Early in the Judd Brackett era. Wasn't productive at all with the Wild for a while. And then with Boston, he had a hell of a year. Hell of a year for what we've seen so far. When you go from single-digit points, you know, like 57 games, 7 points. Didn't we see something like that from a guy like Jules Eriksson Ek? You know, he ended up developing into a nice player. I don't know if Kuznetsov is on his way to being Jules Eriksson Ek, but I don't know. It's a pretty good year. Nice building block. And how old is he right now? 23. 23. He's still only 23. He'll turn 24 on July 17th. 23, man. Jeez, I mean, that's still literally in prospect range. When doesn't it change from like non-prospect to about 24, 25 around there? But 33 points in 17 games, 15 goals. Hell of a skater and a good defender. In 6 playoff games, he had 2 penalty minutes. So that's disappointing. He would have fit right in with us, huh? Oh, did I say that? And it's not like he's tiny. He was 5'11". For some reason, I was thinking he was like short, like 5'8". No, he's 5'11". It's not that small. Come on. You know, I mean, they gave up a little too quick there, I think, on Merit Kuznetsov. But I get it. You're trying to win now. Well, okay. Well, you better start winning then if you're trying to win now. Jesper Wallstedt in the 2021 draft is the only guy who's played significant time in the NHL, 40 games so far, and looked very promising this year. Definitely is going to be a candidate, spoiler alert, in the State of the Wild episode coming up for biggest surprise of the year. Might even be on the MVP ballot. We'll see. Carson Lambos has 1 NHL game so far. The rest of the group, Jack Pert, Caden Banker, Kyle Masters has long been traded away. Josh Pillar has been traded away. Or actually, I don't think Masters is still in the system, is he? Pretty sure he's Yes, yes, he was traded away. Um, or not tendered or whatever. Pilar was traded, and Nate Benoit, same thing. One of those guys that's like single digit points until all of a sudden on Long Island University. Nice. Benoit. Yeah, I forgot he went to Long Island. Only had 13 points in 31 games. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Well, okay. Well, so far just Jesper Wallstedt in that one. Pretty interesting draft in 22, though. You had a bunch of solid players here that might end up making the National Hockey League in significant time and stuff. Such Liam Ogren kind of struggled to get in the lineup a bit. Looked really promising really early. He was part of that. I keep forgetting if it was him or Danila Yurov that were part of the Kevin Fiala trade with Brock Faber. But either or, it's a nice NHL player. Obviously, Yurov, I think, has a better future. So far, Liam Ogren, believe it or not, actually has more games. But this was Danil Yurov's first tenure at all in the NHL. His first season at all in the NHL. And a good start, I think. Good start for a pretty young player. Liam Ogren, again, was a bit in and out of the lineup. Looked promising early. And then this last year when he was finally getting a chance to play for the Wild, it was like nothing. And then he was included in the trade to get Quinn Hughes with Marco Rossi. And Steve William, who we'll see how he turns out. I was never really convinced Steve William was on his way to stardom. And when you watched him in college, it looked like it. But then at the NHL level, I was never convinced. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just, you know how we all have our different opinions? I just didn't see it. I didn't see explosiveness, and I didn't see spectacular scoring ability. And defensively, well, you didn't see that either, did you? Well, did you? Liam Ogren was in and out of the lineup and such, but with the Vancouver Canucks showing some promise, we'll see. Looks like a middle six kind of guy in the NHL. Probably not a top six, but maybe. Well, maybe. That was the hope. I mean, that was what he was supposed to be when he was drafted, but looks more like a middle six guy. And so far, bottom six. So far, where I think Yurov is at least a middle six, if not a top six. 27 points in 73 games. It's all this whole season. This was all 1 year, so pretty exciting for the still very young Danila Yurov. Pretty nice draft pick, I think, with Judd Brackett and Bill Guerin working together. Won a championship with Metallurg. Obviously, Kirill Kaprizov won a championship years ago in the KHL before coming to Minnesota. But, won the title. And then the next year got limited playing time in the in the KHL this last year. It's always when a guy's leaving, they're like, no, we're not going to play you much anymore. In some ways, they're doing us a favor so the guy doesn't get hurt. But 22 years of age, pretty cool. And he doesn't turn, he had his golden birthday this year on December 22nd. He doesn't turn 23 until the end of the year. Isn't that cool? So, so looks like a nice draft pick. Promising, very promising. Mediocre in the face-off, but it's early in his career. The skating is there. The defense is there. Star potential, I have no idea. I don't know about that, but hopefully, at least a Jules Eriksson type of a guy, which would be a huge addition to this team. He's not there yet, but Jules Eriksson wasn't there for quite a while. Don't forget. I probably mentioned that about 50 times in this show over the years. Hunter Haight looks semi-promising from that 22 draft. 9 games, 1 goal, 1 assist so far in his very young professional career. Looks promising, and it looked definitely promising at the AHL level. Not spectacular, but who looks spectacular at the AHL other than maybe a David Spacek, who we'll get to in a minute. Ryger Lorenz obviously won a national title with Denver, and he's going pro now. Did not win the national title this year, but you get the idea. But it looked okay in Denver. Definitely didn't jump out at you. Michael Millen has moved on. Looked like a nice skater, but hasn't really put it all together yet. 1 NHL game so far. Ryan Healy, hard to say on that one. Yep, he's been with Harvard, so we'll see. Defenseman, not a whole lot of points there. 4th round pick, will be turning pro, I do believe, with the Iowa Wild, and we'll see what happens there. David Spacek has been with the Wild for a while, and obviously it runs in the family with Yaroslav Spacek, if I'm saying the name correctly. Spacek with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he was born in Columbus, was David. And looks like a guy I think is ready to be a National Hockey League defenseman. Looked very good in the AHL in the time he was there. He was a -17 in 24-25, but only a -1 last year. And in both cases, really bad. Just teams that were getting beat like 4-1 every night, basically. 5-2. It was like all the time. And if you're only a -1 and you have 36 points as a defenseman, 7 goals, promising. Only 16 penalty minutes, too. That's good. 2 NHL games, no points, -1 so far. 5th round pick, too, so very promising. He's 23. He will turn 24 on February 18th. February 18th. Oh, that day. Yeah, February 18th, 2003. That's a personal day. We'll leave that where that is. Petrovsky, I don't think he's with the organization anymore. No, he went back to Czechia, I do believe. Let's see what happens there. Only 21, too. Wow, he's young. And, of course, 23, the guy who looked like a huge bust, but now it looks like the main attraction is Charlie Stramel. Looked great the past 2 seasons with Michigan State. Unfortunately, broke his ankle in the tournament, and they were out after being the #1 seed in the whole tournament this last year for the for the NCAA is what I'm trying to say. So we'll see. Charlie Stramel turning pro. We're very excited about that around here. Rasmus Kumpalainen, hard to say. Very hard to say with that one. He's been in and out of the AHL to the ECHL, and he's showing some promise in the ECHL, but not too much. Developing pretty slowly. Riley Heidt looked like a stud at the juniors with 100 points and such. 25 points in the Iowa Wild this past year, -14. We'll see. Definitely has some promise. Aaron Pionk, yeah, just kind of he had a huge drop-off this past year. He was a 20-some point guy with Duluth the past 2 seasons, and now this year only 10. So I don't know. He's a defenseman. Caleb Paka, 1 year with Michigan State after being in the juniors for a while. Won the title in 23-24 for the Moose Jaw Warriors. Right shot defenseman. Fairly productive offensively. Had 13 points for Michigan Tech this past year. So I don't need to go on and on. Jimmy Clark, we'll see. 7th round pick. He's kind of I'd say he's a dark horse at best. But I do believe, is he ready to turn pro? Well, he could, but I don't know. I think he's going to come back for his senior year with the new Gopher coach. So, yeah, wishing him the best there. Steve William, of course, looked extremely promising, but I didn't really see, I wasn't dazzled at all with him in the NHL. So, I'm not sure. And I don't think Vancouver has been yet either. He's had 26 points in 76 games so far. Other guys like Ryder Ritchie, who looks okay. I don't want to look at every number and everything. I'm going to bore you with that. Aaron Kiviharu, yep. I mean, kind of a wild card of a pick. I think I think the odds are against him, but you never know. He's a fighter and such. So young, he doesn't really score much. Chase Wooski, as I always talked about this past year, was always facing a firing squad, it seemed, at the junior level. Actually looks better than people think, and I think he's developing nicely at the junior level. We'll see him turn pro fairly soon, I hope. And Stevie Lescobar is a big guy who missed some time. Peter Hultquist is the youngest guy in the whole organization. Adam Bennick looks like a nice scorer. We'll see. And the other guys, Amadowski, Carter Klippenstein's entertaining name. Not sure how far he'll get. And Justin Kipke looked real exciting coming from the juniors, but didn't perform all that great in college last year. So that's kind of the history of the Judd Brackett picks. It's kind of a wait and see with a lot of them, but has he been absolutely spectacular? I'm not so sure about that. Is he a loss? Yes, but we'll see. Hopefully the Wild can continue to draft well. In fact, better than well is the hope. Hopefully they'll draft better than well and draft great. I'm getting hot here. Sorry. I'm just always hot and sweaty, it seems like, in my world. But that's the hope. I know. I hope I didn't bore you with going on and on and on with player after player after player after player, but it kind of is what it is. You know, looking at the history of Judd Brackett with the Minnesota Wild, and you're hoping that a lot of these players do develop. For me, the 2022 draft is the exciting one. Unfortunately, with Ogren not being here, you can't really get too excited about it, but it did help us get Quinn Hughes. So, drafting Liam Ogren did help us get Quinn Hughes. So look at it that way, and then you get Daniil Yurov. Yeah, well, a little sip of tomato juice for that, too. Daniil Yurov does look like an exciting pick. 24th overall and 22. That looks like the exciting one. Lambos, we'll see. Pert, guys like that, we'll see if they develop into anything. 23, I think the only guy that's really going to... Well, there's 2 guys that might make it. Stramel, almost put it this way, if Stramel does not make it to the National Hockey League, it'd be not only shocking, it'd be extremely disappointing. Or not only disappointing, it'd be extremely shocking. Maybe it's a better way to go that way. Riley Heidt, I think, is a legitimate shot at making the NHL. I think so. But it's a little bit of an uphill climb for him right now. It wasn't a great year in the AHL, but not horrible, but nothing to say, wow, Riley Heidt is on his way. 64th overall, second round pick, 2023. Riley Heidt. So there's kind of the Judd Brackett history. Generally good, but a lot of it's incomplete at the moment, just like any other draft. It is incomplete. Doesn't look like Doug Risebrough. It's like maybe one player a draft makes it to the NHL. That was freaking annoying. It was horrible. Like second round down, it's like nobody made it. It was just blank. Because the best place to go for you just type in Minnesota Wild draft history, pick a hockey database, and then you can see how it shows like their NHL numbers. How it's like just go down. Like yeah, it's kind of cool, but it's sad when you look at the Risebrough history where it's like, man, a lot of these guys didn't make it early. Yeah, like the real beginning, a lot of guys did make it. Half of them are just mediocre players, like Stefan Veyer. He played 506 games, but he was pretty mediocre, to say the least. Or they were older guys who were already basically an NHL player. But yeah, let's not go on and on forever here. Just we'll see how things go. Judd Brackett wasn't the general manager. He didn't have the final say, but he definitely was the super scout in the organization, which is what Paul Fenton was, along with being assistant GM with the Nashville Predators. Now, Judd Brackett has a chance to be that super scout who is the assistant general manager with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they could use a little help over there in Toronto. Even though they've had some high-end players there, the disappointment has definitely been a big thing in Toronto. They haven't won a cup since '67. The North Stars came into existence the year after. Think about that. The North Stars came into existence the year after. The season after, basically the summer after the Toronto Maple Leafs won their last Stanley Cup. North Stars, not the Wild, the North Stars. It's a long time ago. Yeah, it's a long time ago. You could, if you wrote the list of teams that won the Stanley Cup since Toronto won their last one, it would be weird. Just sucks that none of them have the word Minnesota at the beginning. Not the Wild or the North Stars. Anyhow, enough of that. We're going to get into DraftKings right here and right now. The Stanley Cup playoffs and finals, of course, are here. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. When the ice gets coldest, the best players in the world show exactly who they are. Playoff warriors turn it up round by round, and DraftKings turns it up with them from the first round all the way to the Stanley Cup Final with the Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes. Bet player props, bet live, from opening face-off to the final horn, every moment matters. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly. Sounds pretty good to me at the end of the day. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN, like for the Hockey Podcast Network. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. Yes, this is episode 420, by the way. And no, oh man, episode 420. Okay, sorry. I'm not interested in that lifestyle in any way. I'm just not. If it's something you do, I guess it's your choice. I guess, right? Well, the Stanley Cup Final is set, if you didn't know already. Carolina stomped all over Montreal basically a week ago, and we had to wait till Tuesday, and game one finally happened. And the Vegas Golden Knights fell behind 2-0, 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Final in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, 2-0. But it wasn't over because the 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey, right? Seems like it always is, doesn't it? Though the Golden Knights would, well, kind of semi-roar back and eventually get the victory, 5-4, without overtime. Tomas Hertl has been a nice story in this postseason, at least the second half or so of this postseason, after it looked like he'd kind of fallen off the face of the earth. Apparently, his old teammate with the San Jose Sharks when they won this, well, they got to the Stanley Cup Final and lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins, much to my chagrin. San Jose Sharks, that would be a guy by the name of Joe Pavelski. Ever heard of him? Called up Tomas Hertl and gave him some advice. And Tomas Hertl has been pretty good. What has he got? 4 goals, 4 assists in the last 8 games. So very productive for Tomas Hertl here in the second half of the postseason. And he scored the game winner against the Carolina Hurricanes late there with about 2 minutes remaining to make it 5-4. Mitch Marner with an assist, Eichel assist. Carlson, again, he had that 43-goal season all those years ago in the misfit year, way back at the beginning. Scoring here after a very quiet season, rattled with injuries and such. But Tomas Hertl had that big game winner late. Carolina was pretty damn good in the game. You thought they had a real shot at winning this thing. And they still might. Let's not forget Carolina got pretty much beat to hell by Montreal in game 1 of the East Finals. And it's like, oh, okay, wow. Montreal just might do this. Well, not so fast. Nicholas Ehlers with 2 goals in the game. Good for him, for Carolina, North Carolina. And ultimately, Gosbeher was the other goal scorer, along with Jordan Stahl. That would be the younger brother of a guy by the name of Eric Stahl. Definitely not as prolific a career, but definitely had a nice career still. Trying to win a Stanley Cup just like his brother did with Carolina 20 years ago. 20 years ago. That's how long it's been. When they beat the Edmonton Oilers in Game 7. They called it Whale of a Day. I even have an image of a picture right now. Well, I never took a picture, but I'm looking at it right now to my left. Vegas Golden Knights, the original hat that they ever released. Dusty, old-looking thing already, even though it was just it was the end of 2016 into 17. And a Hartford Whalers hat side by side. Hartford Whalers hat. Who are the Hartford Whalers? The Carolina Hurricanes. Hartford Whalers were the team that I loved so much. So it's like, so I'm not going to be disappointed with either team winning the Stanley Cup this year. I'll be sad for whoever does not win. I know a lot of people hate the Golden Knights because, they're evil, Stanley Cup, they've been in the league 9 years and they're already in their 3rd final and they might win their 2nd cup. That's BS. And yeah, but they're doing a good job, though. I mean, you got to give them some credit. They're doing a good job building their teams. Again, like I said last week, they don't bother me like the Dodgers. They're not Dodgers-like to me. I thought the closest team in the NHL to the Dodgers was the New York Rangers years ago, when it would be like every time there was this huge free agent. Rangers, it's like, come on, I'm sick of it. It was annoying. But unlike the Dodgers, they actually are, they didn't win the championship. But the Dodgers are winning like every year all of a sudden now, and it's awful. I can't stand it. Bleep the Dodgers. So you can figure out what the bleep stands for. Starts with the F, ends with a K. Anyhow, pardon my French. The matchup is exciting, obviously, generally speaking. During the course of the season, Carolina was 2nd in the league in goals. Vegas was 14th. Power play, Carolina was 4th. Vegas is 6th. And again, this is after Vegas had kind of a meh year until the end. Goals against, Carolina with Frederik Andersen, spectacular most of the year, 5th in the league. Golden Knights 12th, but Carter Hart's been pretty darn good in the playoffs. Penalty kill, Golden Knights are better, which doesn't surprise me, actually. 6th in the league, 6th, 11th for the Carolina Hurricanes. In penalty minutes, what am I looking at? Yeah, both teams. So the Golden Knights have like the 2nd least penalty minutes. Yeah, they're pretty disciplined, and Carolina's pretty disciplined too. They have the 26th most penalty minutes, meaning they're both near the bottom of the league. Remember how the Wild were most of the year? They finally got more disciplined, and that's good because they have a more disciplined-looking coach than, say, at Dean Evison. Alex Pietrangelo has been on IR, unfortunately, with a hip injury. So that's a bugger, whereas Carolina's, knock on wood, doesn't have anything like that. So, yeah, we got up to 6 games to go. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to need every one of them because I think Carolina's right there. Wouldn't be surprised if Carolina split this this home thing. But Vegas winning a game in Carolina, I think, really helps, especially early on. I think it helps set the tone. Vegas is 3-0 in Game 1 in the Stanley Cup Final. So there is that. But I think Mark Stone's presence makes a huge difference for the Vegas Golden Knights. I really do. I'm really tempted to change my pick. But I'll stick with, just for the sake of being honest with myself and with you, the listeners and friends and colleagues out there, fellow podcasters, like the Crease Assist podcast, of course. I have to stick with Carolina just to be fair. Even though I'm kind of got a feeling Vegas is going to win this. But I'm going to stick with my pick with Carolina getting it done. And it's going to take 7, I think. 6 or 7. And I think it will take 7. It's going to be a 7-game series, back and forth. You're going to see all kinds of action. You might see a very similar team in the same similar situation in the NBA Finals. Hopefully the Knicks win that. I refuse to cheer for the San Antonio Spurs. I can't do it. If you hate the Oklahoma City Thunder, there's no reason to like the Spurs either, really. Like, I don't like the way they play. I think they're cheap, just like OKC. They do a lot of cheap crap too. Not a fan. In the NHL, I like both of these. I like both of these teams. I do, and I'm seeing people that they hate both. It's like, really? You hate Carolina and Vegas? That's kind of weird. I don't know, but I guess that's your point of view. I mean, it's possible you could hate both. Me, it's like, I mean, Carolina, I always think of the Whalers, and even that Hurricane logo is kind of cool, you know? And the name Vegas Golden Knights is very cool, I think. So it's a matchup I kind of always was hoping for. Was hoping Brent Burns could be in Carolina, especially if they win the Stanley Cup. So a little sad about that for Brent Burns. He would have been the one person I would have been happy for. It's just, damn it, not the Avalanche. That's kind of how it was. But was hoping for a Ray Bourque moment for Brent Burns. And for those of you that maybe are too young to talk about to know about what happened with Ray Bourque, or maybe you just know from history, obviously great career with the Boston Bruins, really great. Not quite at the Bobby Orr level, but not too far behind. He was a phenomenal defenseman with the Boston Bruins for years. Got to a few Stanley Cup Finals, would always be heartbroken in the end. It just couldn't get over the hump. Goes to the Colorado Avalanche and wins the Stanley Cup. And Joe Sakic, this was in 2001 or 2? I think it was 2. 2001. Joe Sakic, because he was the captain and everything, gets the cup and hands it immediately to Ray Bourque, and up it went, and the crowd went nuts. And the emotions went all over the place. It was amazing. So, great job. So there was that. I was hoping for a similar situation for Brent Burns, but it still might happen. We'll see. We'll see if he comes back one more year and he has his Ray Bourque moment. Maybe that's his last game. Holds the Stanley Cup, world champs. Well, he's a Stanley Cup champion. So with that said, I'm sticking with Carolina in 7. With that, we'll take a quick break and return for fan interaction. And we are back here on Brave the Wild segment number 2, fan interaction in this case, of course. At Brave the Wild is the Twitter / X or whatever we call it. For Instagram, it's BraveTheWild_MN. So if you could go there, that'd be freaking awesome. I was talking about the former Canucks guru, former Canucks draft guru, Judd Brackett leaving for another team. That would be the Toronto Maple Leafs, unfortunately. Derek also posted on a poll, which I can't believe I didn't retweet it, but I retweeted the upcoming one, I believe. So I'm really sorry, Derek. Damn it. I thought I retweeted that. Seriously? So I feel stupid for that. I apologize. Who do you want to win? Who do you think will win the Stanley Cup Finals, basically? Vegas. Vegas would be the want. Like Vegas, Carolina, Vegas. Like, who do you want to win, but who do you think will win? I want Vegas but Carolina will win. And that's basically, wow, there was like a whole tie. And I don't know, it seems like we're not getting the votes lately. I don't know if fans are just not paying attention or they don't care or what. Yeah, both of us aren't getting as many votes as we used to, which is weird. But yep, I'll not let the cat out of the bag. But I picked Vegas, Carolina. Yeah, both of us. Derek got more votes than me, and he usually does, but which is fine. But because he's got quite a community there on Twitter, and he helped build the community for me as well, and I really appreciate that, Derek, a million times over. So yeah, definitely, and I won't let the cat out of the bag, and I'll leave the comments for Derek's show, Croesus' podcast, highly recommended, of course. With, of course, you got Derek, you got Kalisha, Teresa, and Steve. They do a wonderful job and highly recommended, of course. Just don't forget about this show. Listen to both of us if you could. That'd be extremely appreciated. Yes, we're talking about the draft guru, Judd Brackett, and all that good stuff. And Derek, here he is. Yep, because obviously let's get to the comments now, not just me talking. Derek says, it would be a bigger story if the team had a bunch of draft picks. Yeah, that's true. But my guess is the team plans on selling its draft capital to get the players. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of funny and sad at the same time. Get the players they need now, rendering Brackett's service moot. Only time will tell us if it was a good or bad omen. Yeah, yeah. It's like the highest pick the Wild have this year is third round. Third. That's kind of depressing. And then the Timberwolves, I think they only have a second round pick as well. You know how much I look forward to that every year? It's like, I always call it it's like Christmas 2.0, because it's always exactly it's the same week as Christmas, but 6 months apart. So it's like the summer Christmas, winter Christmas, summer Christmas, winter Christmas. They're exactly 6 months apart the same week. Like around the 25th with June and the 25th of December. If you didn't know Christmas was in December, you probably did. I know, I'm just playing. But, yeah, third round pick in the NHL and a second round pick in the NBA. It's like, that's it? I guess. Obviously, there's other picks after the third, but it ain't going to be much. Eman Johan responding, yeah, I can read this because this is for Brave the Wild. Eman Johan says, rumor I saw is he is headed to the Leafs as a higher front office person. Yep, that would be the assistant GM role. Breeze Kressler, nice to meet you, says, if we haven't met yet. Well, we will, hopefully. Let's give him a follow, right? Let's see. Be a bigger story if Brackett was some draft whisperer. He isn't bad, but very blown out of proportion that he is some elite drafter. I think you're right. I think you're right. Because, like when I was going over all those picks and such, the last segment, yeah, it didn't really jump out at you like, man, look at this. Woo! Braden Point and, yeah, like... if he was the draft whisperer, so to speak, like you might have in Tampa Bay, it'd be like, okay, yeah, that's the guy. So I think you're right, Brees. He's not bad. He's definitely better than Risebrough and the scouts that were under Risebrough. I think especially in the later stages of his run here, Doug Risebrough, the run that lasted way too long, by the way, where it was dumpster Doug. Like, okay, we suck at the draft, so we got to sign. We got to trade for Chris Simon or something. Kind of like the last year or so with a guy by the name of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. The drafts were utter failures for the most part, and the Vikings were desperate to sign free agents. To kind of not only fill the roster, to build the team around, and it's kind of hard to do it that way. And that's pretty much what things were happening. It was like it was almost like just like a broke man's Golden Knights. Like, how they don't really rely on the draft all that much in Vegas? It was like a broke man's Golden Knights, like the opposite, where like, okay, everybody we acquire is like a disappointment and stinks and stuff, or never was good, like a Chris Simon. Bull crap, right? Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit on the quiet side this week, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's the off season. And I probably need to put some more thought-provoking conversation out there to do that. So a thought-provoking poll and such might get some more response rather than, the Golden Knights and such. But it is what it is. We're enjoying the Stanley Cup Final right now, and we'll get more thought-provoking stuff soon here. Yeah, I'll have something to say about that here to wrap the show up, but we're not there yet. My poll, which got just a couple of votes, basically. But thank you for those of you that did. I mean, those of you that retweeted, thank you so much. I mean, it got viewed a decent amount, but not many people voted. Who do you view as the most iconic person in the Stanley Cup Final? If other, please comment. Otherwise, comment anyway. Rod Brindamore, Mark Stone, John Tortorella, and Sebastian Aho. And yes, I'm one of them. Well, we'll get to the comments. Yeah, Jay Bushy says Jack Eichel. Yep, so totally understand that one. That's a good choice. Jack Eichel would have been another choice. It's just wish I could put a couple extra names there. I just figured I'd put both of the coaches because everybody's definitely heard of them. Like they're huge names. And I did misspell Rod Brindamore. I had a feeling that E didn't belong there. So I'm sorry about that. That stinks. Rod Brindamore looks like he's got it. Nobody's picking the Golden Knights pretty much. That's kind of funny. But it looks like Rod Brindamore's got it. We'll see. So we'll keep going. Derek, wrapping things up, says, I can't vote for any of these people because the Stanley Cup Finals has not been played yet. Oh, ouch. Rod Brindamore had a nice comment of his own, or a nice moment of his own, sorry, when he last won the Stanley Cup. I think it might be someone on this list, but we don't know yet. We'll know when we see it. Yep. Well, maybe it is going to be Tomas Hertl or Mitch Marner. Yeah, I didn't put any of those guys up there. Of course, Jack Eichel and tons of great players over there in Carolina. So apologize if it was kind of poorly timed. I could understand that. I was kind of mostly just thinking, just who's an iconic person that's involved in the final. So my apologies. I probably didn't word that real well. So I'm sorry about that. Well. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't word it real great. So it kind of came back to bite me, I think, as well. They're like, okay, it didn't even happen yet. What are you talking about? No, I'm sorry. So with that, thank you guys so much for everything. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to take next week off a Brave the Wild to work on State of the Wild 2026. Yeah, but like I'll be probably still recording, but working on that bigger show, like because it's got to get going on those. And of course, similar with Timberwolves Explosion, I'll be working on that State of the Timberwolves 2026. So got to work on those now because it's June. June is when you do State of the whoever. But try my best to keep the shows coming after that as well. Maybe not weekly, maybe every other week, like bi-monthly type of thing. We'll see. News breaks and everything, exciting stuff happens. We'll be behind the mic. The Timberwolves make a crazy trade. The Wild make a crazy trade. I mean, I know either one of these teams, Wild are going to do something this summer. There's no doubt about it. After the Quinn Hughes trade, you knew there's going to be something else. Like, there's no way that's it. They just couldn't get it done in the trade deadline. That doesn't mean it's all over. So there is that. Huge shout outs to M&W Young Guns. Really appreciate you as well. Obviously, the Creases podcast, Minnesota Wild Global. Really appreciate all of you so much. Thank you, Jay, and Johan, Breeze, also for commenting. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys. And we will talk to you probably in a couple weeks of State of the Wild. So I'll definitely be putting out multiple polls for that one for your Minnesota Wild most valuable player. That's one poll. Biggest disappointment is another, and biggest surprise is another. So we'll be putting polls of that out there, and we'll have a fun fan interaction with that one. I'll give you my official picks probably at the end of the first segment, which is usually the season wrap-up. Second segment is the future. We're talking about the future. There's always the segment 1.5 where we talk about the final and the fan interaction. So should be a fun show. Really looking forward to that. More of a project than just these weekly shows. So that's how that works. That's why I'm going to take, won't be posting anything next week unless something insane happens. Unless something insane happens. Won't be posting a show next week. I'll be busy working on State of the Wild 26. So with that, take care, God bless, and we will talk to you soon with State of the Wild.